Welcome to everyone who's joining us for this webinar. Medical education has an extraordinary foundation, but it's important to remember that it was built for a particular time and, in many ways, a particular place. The reforms associated with Flexner helped establish scientific rigor and consistency in medical education. But they also helped establish the university and the academic medical center as the dominant standard against which medical education came to be judged. Osteopathic medical education has spent decades demonstrating something different. High quality physician education does not require the university academic medical center to be its center of gravity. We have educated physicians in community hospitals, ambulatory practices, rural communities, and distributed clinical environments across the country. But there's an irony in that success. Even as we moved medical education into the community, we largely brought the academic medical center's educational architecture with us. Think about it. Rotations, clerkships, core experiences, blocks of time, discipline-based requirements. We changed where medical education could occur without fundamentally reconsidering how it should occur. And I think that is the opportunity before us now. Next slide. Because while that educational architecture has remained remarkably familiar, almost everything around it has changed. Care is increasingly team-based, technology-enabled, and distributed across many settings. At the same time, clinical sites and preceptors are stretched, and our learners need more meaningful roles in care. Those pressures are exactly what this slide is describing. So the question may not simply be, how do we find more rotations? Maybe we need to ask a more fundamental question. If the community is not merely an alternative site for clinical education, but a fundamentally different learning environment, what kind of educational model would we design for it? What if we started with the community rather than the clerkship? What if we started with the needs of patients, practices, and health systems rather than a predetermined number of weeks in a particular discipline? What if students could become meaningful contributors to care earlier in their experience? What if continuity with patients, teams, and communities mattered as much as moving from one rotation to another? And what if technology, simulation, AI, and new forms of assessment allowed us to rethink what must happen in a traditional clinical setting at all? Those are the kind of questions I think we now have permission to ask. Next slide. And that's why I think of this accelerator at its core as a form of crowdsourcing. We are not assuming that AACOM has the answer. We're not assuming that a small committee or a small group of experts has the answer. We are turning to the people closest to the work because they see things the system itself may not see. The student knows where learning becomes observation. The preceptor knows what makes taking another student difficult. The clerkship director knows where the current model creates unnecessary friction. The community physician sees opportunities for students to contribute that our traditional curriculum may not recognize. And somewhere, someone has probably already tried something different that the rest of us have never heard about. That's why the invitation on this slide is so important. Bring your experience. Bring the problem that has bothered you for years. Bring the unanswered question. Bring the idea that is not quite formed yet. That is exactly how the accelerator is designed to work. We're not asking you to arrive with a polished solution. We're asking you to help us question some of the assumptions behind the system we inherited. Because perhaps the opportunity here is not simply to make the existing model of clinical education work better. Perhaps it's to imagine the model we would build if we were starting today. And if we're going to do that, the people closest to the work should help design it.